Hi, this is Soft Cell Video Productions, and I'm your host, John. This is lesson number 148, in which we go over the volts section of the pie chart, which is 10 through 12 of the entire 12 major equations that you need to know to pass your NEC code test. Using a soft cell amplifier, which is rated at 120 volts and 45 watts, those are givens, we're going to solve for these last three equations. The first equation is the square root of watts multiplied by ohms will give you volts. We're already given 45 watts in this part of the formula, so we have to solve for ohms. So we go down to number 9, which is volts divided by amps, will give you ohms. Alright? Well, we don't have amps. So to get amps, we have to go over section 5. Which is watts divided by volts. We've got watts and volts. Will give you the amperage. So what we end up getting is watts divided by volts is equal to 0.375 amps. Now that we have all the information, we have our watts, and because we solved for our amps using the volts and watts, we have 0.375 amps, and we go back to number 9 for our ohms, which is volts divided by amps, gives you ohms. Our ohms came out to 320. Now, what you have to do is multiply 45 times 320 and get the square root of that. And that should give us the voltage. That should come up with 120 volts. Going from the information that we got from the equations, we came up with 320 ohms times 45 watts, and lo and behold, we come up with 14,400. I told you that number comes up a lot. So the square root of 14,400 is 120 volts. Therefore, it verifies this watts times ohms, the square root of, is a valid and workable equation. Let's move on to watts divided by amps is equal to volts. Now, like I said, watts divided by amps equals volts. Watts is provided for. Amps, once again, we come over to number 5. Very simple. 120 divided by 45 gives you 0.375 amps. So, you take 45 watts divided by 0.375 amps. Watts divided by amps. And lo and behold, you get 120 volts. These equations never lie to you if you do them right. So let's work on the last one. Amps multiplied by ohms will give you volts. Finishing up on the amps times ohms, we have formula number 5, watts divided by volts, gives us amps. I'm not going to bore you with that equation. You've already seen it a couple times. And then for ohms, we went to equation number 9. Volts divided by amps gives you 320 ohms. And I'm not going to bore you with that equation because you've seen that before. So the main thing is the brass tacks. Amps times ohms equals volts. So we take 0.375 amps times 320 ohms, and you get 120 volts. keep this in mind. In finishing this, I want to remind you that if you get stuck on a formula, all you have to do is go around here and find an equation that has both the factors in it and tuck that one factor away, and then for the other factor, for whatever two factors they give you, you go around and search for an equation with those two factors in it. You can then combine those two equations to come up with the two factors you need to solve for any equation on this chart, whether it's watts, amps, ohms, or volts. Well, that closes out the pie chart series. It gives you all 12 equations, tells you how to use them, and intermix different equations to come up with unknowns so that you can solve for your variables. But in the meantime, I'd really like to thank you for watching, and have a great day.